Hello everybody and welcome to Parksbros. It's Drew here, and today we're heading all the way to SeaWorld Orlando to rank every single one of their rides, all based on your vote. This is the 10th video in this crazy series where we take all of your opinions, put it all into one big bag, average out the scores, and rank every single ride at each and every given park that we visit. This time we're heading to SeaWorld Orlando, and you guessed it, Orlando, Florida, to rank all of their 18 rides and roller coasters on a scale of 1 to 10. Before we get going, I do want to say thank you all to everyone who voted in this poll. I really appreciate you, and if you want to participate in some of the polls we have ongoing and will be coming out in the next couple of months, those will all be linked down in the description below. So if you want to help us rank parks like Silver Dollar City, Universal Studios Florida, California's Great America, and even Kings Island and more, head down to the description right now and help us fill out those polls. Alright, without further ado though, let's head to the kid-friendly rides of SeaWorld Orlando. There are currently 7 kids rides at SeaWorld Orlando, so let's count them down from number 7. At the very bottom of the list, we have Elmo's Choo Choo Train coming in with a score of 3, and this is actually tied with the next ride, Big Bird's Twirl and Whirl. At number 5, we're going to head to the Sunny Day Carousel to take in the rays as well as get a little bit of spinning going on with a 3.580, 6.4. Right after at number 4, just barely beating it out, is Abby's Flower Tower with a 3.583. Coming in with the top 3 now, we're going to head to Cookie Drop with a 3.718, and then to number 2 for Slimy's Slider if you want to get some more spinning going on with a 3.875. And all the way at number 1, although this definitely could have been in the other list as it is a roller coaster, we put Super Grover's Boxcar Derby into this slot right now. So a huge congrats goes out to Grover, I guess, for taking on the title of Best SeaWorld Orlando Kid-Friendly Ride. But with that said, let's head into the rest of the rides and roller coasters at SeaWorld Orlando. Coming in at number 9, we have the Flamingo paddle boats, which I personally have not been on quite yet, but I'm definitely hoping to get on next time I visit at the park to get an absolutely gorgeous view of the entire area, as well as a chillaxing time on one of the most classic rides out there. Now, if we added Super Grover's Boxcar Derby onto this list instead of the kids list, this is where it would rank right above the Flamingo paddle boats, but right above that would be number 8. Sky Tower, coming in with a 6.5. This ride gives an absolutely gorgeous view of the entire area of Orlando, as well as plenty of overhead sights that you won't want to miss. This is an upcharge attraction if you're not a pass holder, but pass holders, you get to save a couple bucks. So do keep that in mind before you check it out. Coming in at number 7, we have our first roller coaster on this list, and arguably one of the best themed rides at SeaWorld. This is Journey to Atlantis, the first roller coaster at the park, if I remember correctly, coming in with a 6.93 repeating, as this ride gets you absolutely drenched, especially if there's some people from off-ride participating in some of the water cannons that are there. But this ride has some incredible indoor scenes as well as a mainly dark ride aspect to it, outside of course, those roller coaster and splashdown portions. I feel like this ride would have ranked a lot higher if we did this poll about 10 years ago when all of the theming was still working, but sadly a lot of those effects no longer are in service. But I will say, this was a great ride to have as my 150th coaster. Now, if you weren't absolutely drenched enough, head over to number 6, Infinity Falls. This is one of the newer rides at the park, as this Intamin-made raft ride is pretty crazy. Not only is it like a traditional raft ride where you'll be bouncing back and forth between the walls of this crazy uncontrollable river, but there's also a vertical lift, and at the time, the tallest drop on any raft ride in the world was the crowning feature of this ride. This ride will definitely get you wet if you weren't before, and it's easily the best way to cool off at the park. We've already made it to the top 5 as we look to one of the newest roller coasters at the park. This is Icebreaker that opened in 2022. This orange and blue multi-launch coaster made by Premier Rides officially opened very early into 2022, and I was even lucky enough to check out the pass holder previews for the ride, as it features the steepest point on any roller coaster in all of Florida with a 100-degree backwards spike. This ride is kind of different compared to most in Orlando, as the first thing you'll do is switch tracks before launching backwards, forwards, backwards again, and then forwards for the final time before getting to check out the rest of this crazy layout. There is incredibly intense airtime packed throughout this roller coaster, as well as some great moments going back and forth across those 4 launches that just make you feel that speed in a whole different way. This ride isn't exactly for the faint of heart, but man, it does pack a punch. But it leads us perfectly into a more intense roller coaster, at least in my opinion, as we head to the back of the park for Kraken. This B&M floorless roller coaster has been in operation for well over 20 years at the park now, and has featured many repaints in the past. This ride is also the first to focus on inversions and have any inversions whatsoever that we've talked about, meaning there are multiple moments where you're going upside down on this ride. There's a vertical loop, a dive loop, a cobra roll, and a 0G roll with another loop and corkscrew to top it all off. This ride is pretty dang intense if you ask me, but man, it is worth that wait. We've officially made it into the top 3 to a ride that I sadly have not been able to check out myself yet. This is the first B&M surf coaster ever created, Pipeline, the surf coaster, opening in 2023. This ride takes the original stand-up concept and adds a little bit more hang time to it, as these standing seats focus on comfort first and offer a more bouncy experience, as your seat will give a little bit upwards and downwards depending on the forces you're currently facing. Meaning, if there's airtime on this ride, you'll end up floating out of your seat even more. If there's positive G's, you're going to get forced further downward. And I think this concept is really cool, and there's been tons of rave reviews about this ride, but this is a cool new addition to the Orlando area, as it is also the first LSM launch coaster by B&M in the state. If you've ridden it, let me know what you think down in the comments below. But that officially gets us to our top 2, which it's going to be between 2 B&Ms, because this is the park with the most B&Ms in the world. At least it feels that way. Is it Manta or is it Mako? Well, if you guessed Manta, you would be correct, as it comes into this number 2 spot. This B&M flying coaster is unlike anything else in all of Central Florida. While Pipeline brought a new twist on an older model, the flying coaster has still never been properly topped in just how insane the engineering is. This ride puts you underneath the track and then swivels so it makes you sit like you're flying. Your face will point directly towards the ground as you get into this Superman flying position that can't really be recreated on anything else. This ride would be a really relaxing and amazing time if you were just flying. Well, guess what? There's tons of inversions throughout the ride, including the ride's first, a pretzel loop, which immediately makes you feel like you're doing a front flip towards the ground. This is easily the most intense moment on any ride at SeaWorld Orlando, so make sure you're ready for Manta by riding pretty much almost every ride in the park before it. After that amazing pretzel loop, there's some more twists, turns, and a lot of amazing scenery and rock work before you dive down to that famous lagoon towards the front of the park for a little bit of a splashdown moment. And yes, you can get wet by this little effect. This ride is absolutely amazing, and I wish it was just a little bit longer. Well, as long as that little bit longer wasn't sitting on the brake run for a very long time. Of course, that will bring us to number 1, which you guys think is the best ride at SeaWorld Orlando, and that is the B&M Hypercoaster Mako, as it's the only ride at SeaWorld Orlando to get a score of over 9. This formerly tallest coaster in all of Florida is 200 feet tall and gets you up to a top speed of 73 miles an hour. The almost mile-long track length also gives you a crazy long ride time, as all throughout this roller coaster you will be going up and down again, but with the most blissful floating sensation every time you're in the air. This ride is arguably the best ride to feel that floating sensation in all of the state of Florida, if not all of the South, as it features so many different moments of those parabolic hills. There's also some really amazing scenery all around as you'll traverse around a lake before even floating above one. I know for a long time that a lot of people argued that this was the king of coasters in all of Florida, and it's totally understandable why. But with that said, I wanted to say thank you all so much for tuning in to SeaWorld Orlando ranked by you. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you want to check out some of those polls, go down to the description right now. And of course, while you're down there, hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't yet. We've got more of these videos coming, as well as tons of park updates from Southern California, as well as a lot of reviews from all the parks we visit. But of course, until next time, we'll see you on the next ride.